Okay, amazing. Cool. Well, thank you so much for everyone tuning in. I'm sorry we're a couple of minutes late. We will try and get stuck into it from now onwards. So like I said, thanks for everyone tuning in. We appreciate it. Is 6:30 in the afternoon in Australia for most Australians. We'll find out where you're from in a second. And then any Kiwis on the call, we know it's 8:30. So the goal for us will be to finish this webinar in 60 minutes. And then at the end of that 60 minutes, we'll leave some time for question time and allow everyone to, again, turn the camera on or off. And then, just have a conversation. Throughout the webinar, feel free to post questions within the chat. Myself, Takia, and Sophie will be very happy to assist at any point throughout the webinar itself. And if we can't touch on a question for whatever reason, we'll make sure we try and address it later on in the webinar too. So, teach in the UK information session. So we'll get started into it. So firstly, just an acknowledgement of country. So we respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands, the Wurundjeri Wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation on which we are meeting today. We recognise their continuing connection to the lands, the waters and the skies, and we pay respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nations people present today. So a bit of an introduction to us and our team. So I know a few people on this call may be familiar with ANZ UK or may not be familiar too. So and some may have already spoken to myself as well. I have seen a couple familiar names pop up on the call. So if I can obviously reference anyone I've seen before, I think I can see Beck there, I'm pretty sure. Beck, g'day. We spoke the other day, which is great. So my name is Tyler and I'm the UK recruitment overseas team leader based here in Melbourne. I've been working with ANZ UK for about 5 years, and I started originally off as a teacher in Melbourne doing some CRT work back in 2016. I'd already been to the UK before and had a bit of a travel bug. Really wanted to, go back there and make that, had that experience living overseas, and had some really close friends who were already living there working with ANZ UK at the time, coincidentally, as teachers. Moved over in 2016 after working for 2 terms here in Melbourne as a CRT, casual relief teacher. And then I spent about a year teaching in London. We're mostly out of West London, which is the team that Sophie is representing as well on the call. And had an amazing experience teaching in the UK. Living there, I absolutely loved it. Got to travel a lot when I was teaching. Every 6 weeks you get a half-term break, so I took advantage of that with our friends and my partner. We went away a heap. I worked at a pupil referral unit, which we'll talk about in a little bit of detail, which is a behavioural school. Really challenging environment, but unbelievably rewarding too. And then I've done some mainstream work before jumping into the office where I worked as a consultant. That's our London office there as well, where I worked as a consultant for 3.5 years across a few different teams in London. Moved home in 2020 back to Melbourne, and then pretty much since then have been helping educators such as everyone on the call make the journey over to the UK, which has been a really exciting shift for me. Absolutely love talking to people who are moving over to the UK. One of the best decisions I personally ever made was that moving to the UK and living in London and having an amazing experience. But we'll talk more about ANZ UK and the experiences that can be on offer for everyone. And it's not just London. I'll probably accidentally say London a few times, but Takia's from Bristol, and we've got other offices elsewhere too. So that's me. Sophie, did you want to say g'day to everyone on the call?
Yeah, it's hard to follow that. But hi everyone, I'm Sophie, and I actually work in the London office. So I've been there for nearly a year now, even though it's kind of flown by. It feels like longer, especially when you're in London, loads to do. We'll touch on that later. And in terms of my area, as Tyler mentioned, I support the Northwest London team. We've got some really great areas and great schools around there as well. So I've actually had about over 4.5 years experience within education. So my degree was in biological science. And then just before I joined ANZ UK in September last year, I was actually a manager of a tuition centre and supporting children from different ages and different backgrounds as well. So I've always been really focused kind of on education. I have always lived in London. I haven't had that travel bug just yet. I still feel like there's a lot more for me to see in London at the moment, but definitely would be open to obviously exploring what's out there as well. But yeah, that's me.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Sophie. And Takia, give us a bit of an overview of yourself, mate.
Sure. Hi. So I'm Takia. I'm new to the ANZ UK family. I joined about 3 months ago. just before that, I was a maths teacher for a secondary school, and I did that for about 6 years. So the way I trained was school direct, straight into schools. I joined as a TA, and then they asked me to apply to become a teacher. I had the frontline experience with the school, and then qualified, and then got my qualified teacher status that way. I've been a resident of Bristol since birth. I've only really known about life in Bristol, and I've had a real mix of it as well, because we moved quite a few times within the city. And prior to teaching, I was a tutor for maths and English, so I've known education my whole life. For as long as I've known, I've been teaching, supporting, guiding, educating.
Yeah, amazing. That's Akira. And I think the beauty of us on the call as well, it emulates a lot with the other team members in ANZ UK as a whole. A lot of us are educators originally, or work within the education space. So we understand what you do in the classroom, the value and the impact that it has. And we love supporting educators, obviously traveling to a different country, but then getting that work when you're there, and all the other things that come about it as well. And, really focusing on what your ideal role is and how we can assist you in getting that, whether that be over in the UK, or maybe it's locally, or maybe it's New Zealand or somewhere else. But we'll talk through all those options in a minute. But we want to ask everyone a question too, so we can get an understanding of where everyone is tuning in from. So I've just posted into the chat. If everyone just wants to respond, just where you're tuning in from, you could go the city and the country if you like, or just the city, whatever everyone prefers. So feel free to type away. Nice, got a bit of a mix here, which is good. Lots of Melburnians, which is great. I'm a little bit biased to Melbourne, being lived here most of my life, except for my stint over in the UK, which is really good. But I can see people from New Zealand, which is amazing, and then Brizzy, all over Australia and New Zealand, which is amazing. So we've got myself and another team member based in Australia, but then we've got Claire, who's based in New Zealand, who supports the Kiwi contingent moving over to the UK from New Zealand itself. So we'll talk through the process in a bit more detail, but yeah, really exciting to see a good mix of Aussies and Kiwis on the call. Perfect. And this photo here, just to highlight, is a welcome event that we host regularly too, where anyone on this call will be welcome into our office, whether it's in London or Bristol, to meet other people who are journeying over. Because I know a lot of people on the call will probably be traveling by themselves, or maybe only have one or two friends that they're looking to go with. So with ANZ UK, it's a great way to meet other people who are journeying over. So we'll keep moving through. So a bit of a snapshot on what we're going to cover. So the idea for this info session will be that we'll touch on the majority of things, at least we hope they're the majority of things that you'll need to know in preparation for moving to the UK. We will skim over some slides, not because they're not important, not just because of time. We don't want to keep everyone here past midnight. We want to make sure that it's within an hour, everyone can go off and jump into bed or have dinner. Or if you're Sophie and Takia, maybe finish breakfast, whatever time of day it is where you are. But we'll pretty much cover everything that you need to know. And then after this call, any questions you've got, you can filter to our team, to myself, to any, to potentially to Kira or Sophie if we tee up a conversation with the UK team. And you can jump onto our blog page as well. We have oodles of information and resources on our blog page, and there's lots of resources available. And this slide pack will be shared. It will be recorded, because I know there was a couple of questions as well that were asked in the lead up around whether the webinar will be recorded or not. It will be, and we will share that with you in the next day or two. That's what I was trying to sort earlier, was the recording, making sure it was working. So that's why there's a delay. One more poll for everyone, just for us to learn a little bit more about everyone on the call. Has everyone been to the UK before, in terms of whether it's traveling, or maybe you've lived there before and you're going back potentially? Amazing. Got a bit of a mix here, which is really good. So a lot of no's, which is super exciting. Moving to a country you've never been to before is a big leap of faith, but a lot of people do it. And you can see just now how many people haven't ever been there before, which is great. So, and we'll talk about all the benefits of moving over to the UK as we go through the presentation. So amazing. Sophie, do you want to give us a bit of an introduction to ANZ UK and us as a global business?
Yeah, sure. So hopefully most of you have heard of ANZUK UK, but if you haven't, so we are a global business. We're pretty big, so we've got 17 offices all across Australia, obviously UK, Canada, New Zealand, and then the USA as well. In terms of what we aim to do, we aim to find the right educator, right place, right time, and obviously the right school for you guys as well coming over. You'll see in the picture here, obviously we've got Ben and Dan. They actually founded ANZ UK as well, which is really exciting. You'll get to hopefully meet Ben when you come to some of our events in the UK as well. And yeah, obviously there's a lot of opportunities. We are obviously going to be talking about obviously the UK today, and then particularly our areas within that. But it's good for you to know that before you come over, there's opportunities obviously in Australia, New Zealand and Canada as well, which is really exciting. Hopefully you'll get your journey started before you touch down on the UK soil.
Yeah, amazing. And just to highlight the 2 points here, just to make sure everyone's got their understanding of it too, because it's on our website. You might see USA and you might also see Canada if you're just on Instagram or whatever it is. Just to give everyone context, we can only support educators to the USA if you have an American passport, just because of the visa requirements are very different between Australia, the UK, and New Zealand. So only American passport holders. Canada, we actually support educators only leaving Canada. We have a Canadian resource team who help Canadians come to Australia, come to New Zealand, and go to the UK. So at some of our events, you will definitely meet some Canadians. They're a fun bunch. There's none on the call at the moment just because of the time difference. So it's a little bit tricky for the Canadian crew to jump online for now. But you will hopefully meet some Canadians when you'll come into the events and getting set up with ANZ UK. But to Kia, what's happening in the UK at the moment? Give us the scoop.
So in terms of education, we're working with a lot of schools across the UK. We have a lot of roles coming up for September and for January and beyond. So we're extremely busy. We're excited to see that COVID has been something that we can now put slightly to the back burner, and things can get back to some sort of normality. We can open up travel again, and we can start to invite you to the UK and have a lot more of you educating in the UK. With that being said, classes are back to normal as well. Transport ish is back to normal, or a couple of strikes here and there. But the summer holidays are looking pretty good. I myself have a couple of holidays booked in over the next few weeks. I've got in terms of normality, I've got my honeymoon booked for next week. We'll be going to Santorini, which will be nice. We booked it a couple of years ago, and then lockdown happened, and no one was flying anywhere, and countries were closed. So it's good that we're starting to get back to that feeling of being able to be a little bit more free in what we do.
It's winter here at the moment as well. Like everyone knows that who's down under, but the fact that you're going to Santorini in a week to Kia is my ears are pricking up a lot hearing that. So yeah.
I can't wait. I mean, we've been into ancient Greece and Greek mythology for ages as well. We love that stuff. Myself and my wife. So yeah, going to see something that kind of resembles it, or even just the whitewashed houses with the blue domes.
Yeah,
love it.
Beautiful.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Sophie, do you have any summer plans yourself? What are you getting up to?
Well, obviously we just had a heat wave here in the UK, which was unexpected, but very nice. But I'm actually going to Lisbon tomorrow for 5 days. So
nice.
Yeah, it'll be really nice, some nice seafood, and hopefully some nice sun as well. So but I think I would like to go Santorini, to be fair.
Yeah, I know. I will hopefully I will unfollow you on Instagram for the next 2 weeks to Kia. So
Oh yes, ask away. We're happy to answer.
My question is, obviously in Australia we're on different school holidays. Obviously we have our 6-week break over December, January. Do many jobs come up in January so that I can finish my year, because I'm on a contract this year? Do many jobs come up then, or do they more come up in September?
Really good question. We've got actually a slide on like our holidays later on, and I will go over that too. But yes, they do. My advice, and I will obviously say it later as well, but my advice would be, if you're looking for a long-term role, obviously you want to kind of plan it when our holidays are, if that makes sense. So January would be absolutely fine. September obviously is when we start our new academic year, but you'll see obviously as well, we're split into different kind of what we call half terms, and like different sections of the year where the terms are. So if you are looking for a long term, there's certain times within the year that would be best to come over. Again, it's
and is January one of those better times?
Yeah, January.
So you have a holiday
it's the start of the next term. Yeah, we have so after Christmas. So we normally finish. Again, it changes each year. We normally finish around the 20th of December, give or take, and then we start again on the 4th or something of January. But yeah, that would be absolutely fine. But when we go on the slide, everyone can see when it's actually broken down into, as that's useful for you guys, obviously, if you are planning it, for certain months, especially if you're looking for long term as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to answer your question in short, January would be fine.
Perfect. Thanks. Sorry for jumping ahead.
No, that's all good. That's all good. Not a problem at all.
Whilst we're waiting for Tyler, shall I just share my screen, and then because I've got the presentation, and then we can just carry on.
Some technical issues. This reminds me of back in COVID when we were all online. Yeah, that'd be
teaching
great.
online.
Kind of just teaching online. I think all of us know that too well. We can just kind of continue and hopefully get back on soon.
Hello guys, I am so sorry. Oh my God, we couldn't have timed that any worse. Wow. The entire computer stopped working, so I am so sorry. I had to completely reset, so I had to sort of, I've jumped in, I've jumped out. So thank you to Kia and Sophie for running through there. It sounds like we're getting a few questions from the everyone on the call. Is that right?
Yeah, it's all good. It just reminds us of COVID times when you were online all the time, so it's all good.
Yeah. I'm just really happy that I didn't start talking and I was on mute, because that would have been hilarious if I'm just sorry. That would have been an absolute kicker. So but hey, we're back to it. So in terms of what we just covered, I just want to we're on this slide, and then we jumped onto this slide now. That works, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And we didn't ask, I didn't get that poll in about when everyone's looking to go to the UK. Is that correct? That's still, I might post that now. Nice. We'll throw to a poll. I'm back and we'll throw to a poll. So when is everyone planning to go to the UK? What's everyone's estimated time to arrive? And we'll talk about the best times to arrive, even though you can really choose whenever you like. Awesome. So good. I can see a couple familiar names there as well, which is great. Jack and Shannon, I think it is too, which is really good. Alicia as well. So good. Lots of people for January early next year as well. And great to see Grace long game 2025, which is good. So, good to see that forward planning, which we absolutely love at ANZUK UK. So why teach in the UK? I know everyone's got the itch and the bug to do it, otherwise you wouldn't be on the call, but it's really good to know that, we've got so many people that are interested. But there's so many reasons. Like, we've got 3 categories here, but there's so much more than this, and we could do a whole presentation on why you would move overseas. So a few things to highlight would be like personal growth, stepping out of your comfort zone. A lot of people haven't been to the UK before. So that's a big step. I never lived out of home before I moved to the UK as a young 24-year-old, naive about the world, and figured out lots and lots about myself and being an adult living overseas. Develop more cultural awareness. The UK is a multicultural hub, London and Bristol specifically, so you'd meet people from all walks of life, which is an amazing way to learn more about the world. And just the experience of living in a different country. Like Australia and New Zealand are amazing places to teach, and the UK is quite similar in many ways, but it's very, very different in lots of ways as well. So, and then career development, it may not be on the front of everyone's radar, thinking that going to the UK, travel might be a big factor for everyone, taking a career break potentially too. However, career development is a huge value add of going over to the UK. The UK education system is highly regarded globally, especially in the Australian and New Zealand lens. So if you've gone over to the UK, you've taught for 1 year, taught for 2 years, got a contract, got a reference from a head teacher, your employability back home it goes up and skyrockets because you've taught overseas, you've lived in an unfamiliar environment, you've adapted to the new curriculum, and you're really held in high regard on your return journey. So really recommend to just even explore, like, even if you don't want to do a contract when you're there, even consider it for a short period of time, just so that you have that on your CV. It is really valuable. And you learn a lot about your teaching practice too. So not just career development, professional development as well. So you learn a lot about teaching in the UK. And then the life experience, the fun stuff, making friends from all over the world, whether it be from Bristol or whether it be from Spain or whether it be from Australia, or maybe it's someone, your best mate from back home, you just get a new network developing. Travel, obviously everyone's ears pricked up, including mine, about the travel plans of Takia and Sophie. I think when I cut off, I started talking about my trip. I think that's maybe why the internet just stopped working, so I started talking about going overseas. But I was able to go to Italy a couple of weeks ago, 3-hour flight to Sicily. You can go to places you might have ever heard of, because you can jump on London, go Skyscanner to anywhere, London, Bristol, and you can pick an airport and you can get a 25 quid return flight sometimes if you're lucky. The community, a big part of ANZ UK is helping people network and meet other people, whether they be educators, whether they be expats, or whether they just be anyone who you'll meet when you're over there. So, which is really exciting. Takia, Sophie, anything to add about like what you love about living in London or Bristol?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of London, there's just so much to do. There's so much, I haven't done half of it yet. In terms of interest as well, I feel like you said, it's very much diverse, the people that we have, so you're always meeting new people, but I feel like there's something for everyone. If you like going to the theatre, if you enjoy sports, walking along the river, it's just so fun. I recently had my Canadian family over for 2 weeks, and obviously I was playing tour guide and showing them around, but we didn't get to kind of do half of what there is to see, specifically in London. So yeah, it's just why I love living here, because you've got obviously all the different areas as well, northeast, southeast, and it's just so different in each area. So yeah, I just love it.
Yeah, I spent 4.5 years living in London, and there's so much I didn't see, so much, like places I'd never even been to, let alone, got close to like fully getting to know. So, and Takia, any big tips for Bristol, like why you love living there?
I'd say exactly the same thing for Bristol. You could live here your whole life and still not experience all of it. And I think the best thing for me for Bristol is that the city somehow moves to the speed that you want it to. If you want the hustle and bustle, you can find it within Bristol. If you want something a bit more laid back, you can find that too. If you want to sit at the harbour and watch the water and the boats go by, then you could do that. It's serene when you want it to be, and it's lively and hustly bustly whenever you want it to be as well.
Yeah, amazing. Bristol's such a cool place. My partner and I would always said if we would live anywhere else outside of London, it would have been Bristol. So if you want to do something outside that London experience, Bristol and some of the other areas which we'll talk about are really good places to do to consider living. Just a quick another poll. There's only a couple more left, I promise. But we do just want to learn more about everyone on the call. So just understanding if everyone's a teacher or a teaching assistant. And teaching assistant can be just essentially anyone who's not an actual teacher. Which is good. So mostly teachers and a couple TAs. Jack, I obviously know you've worked with us locally as well, which is great. But the vast majority are teachers, which is really positive too. So if you've got any friends in your network that aren't teachers, then we can help them out. But yeah, it seems like most people are teachers, which is great. And there is a teacher shortage in the UK as well. I'm not sure everyone's aware of that on the call. There is a huge demand for teachers at the moment, and anyone in education. So keen to work through that with everyone and just explore what's on offer in the UK. So just a quick little process. So the steps in the process. So a lot of people may not even be here yet in initial contact in terms of a phone call with one of our team based in Australia and New Zealand, the Global Opportunities team. So after this call, the follow-up will give you a link to join to jump onto a calendar invite for my calendar or my colleague Claire's. And then we'll be able to tee up a call. From then, it's all about what your plans are, learning about your preferences. And if you're leaving in the next 12 months and we've got a CV back from yourself, those are the two biggest things. And of course, the right to work, which we'll work through. Then we get you in contact with the Sophies, the Takias of the world in the UK, and they start to develop a relationship with you. And then we really learn about how we can support you with work, what your preferences are, and just giving you all the insights of what it takes to move countries, which we'll again touch on in this presentation. When we get closer, our compliance team reach out. There's a few slides on compliance. You need an Australian UK police check to work in the UK. We need references. We'll do a virtual registration with you before you get to the UK, which we touch on here. And then the idea is that you're cleared to work before you get to the UK. So you could land at Heathrow Airport, put your school boots on, and then go straight to a school if you wanted to, but don't do that. You'd be really recommended to go enjoy yourself, kick your feet up, relax, and then when you're ready, jump in the classroom then. That may be not too long after you land, especially if you want to arrive in January, potentially after starting in a role, but there's always good time to enjoy all the fun stuff out of the classroom as well. Cool. And then Takir, do you just want to give us a bit of a snapshot of where people could work over in the UK?
Yeah, so you've gone through the journey of speaking to us and registering and going through all the compliance checks, and now you're ready. You've just landed and you're ready to put your teacher boots on. So we have a few offices across the UK. We have us in Bristol, we have one in London, we have one in Wales, and one in Surrey as well. And we tend to operate within that sort of region. So for Bristol, it's the entire southwest. So we cover quite a huge geography. For Wales, I think they're opening another office as well, but they're divided into North and South Wales. But they cover that whole country. Surrey as well covers within that region, and then London, I'm assuming, covers the whole of London. But I can't remember exactly which areas. 3 months in, apologies. And then we do have some regional locations as well. So I've dealt with a role up in North Yorkshire, which is towards the north, which is roughly where regional was pointing to be honest. And they tend to be contract placements or longer term placements rather than your casual relief. And if you're looking for casual relief, then you'll be looking roughly within the region that we operate from our offices.
Yeah, spot on there as well. So yeah, those 4 cities is weighted more towards the south of England and the south of Wales. But yeah, if you do have like family up north, or like you've got friends, yeah, we can try and assist, but it's just not as likely as what it would be if you were in these office locations or thereabouts. So just keeping that in mind when partnering with ANZUK UK, that this is where we're most likely to support. But that said, it's not to say that it's impossible up that way, because like Takir just mentioned, working with roles across the UK is definitely something which does occur. So and then we've already touched on a little bit of this slide, Sophie, in terms of London and a little bit of Surrey. But you just want to give everyone a little bit of an overview of the 2 different areas.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, London, in terms of, we kind of work with schools all around London. So I'm based for the Northwest London team, but we've got Northeast, Southeast, Southwest as well. So we are, there's schools kind of all across London. Obviously, as you start to think about coming over, we can chat to you about good areas. A lot of people coming over, like Clapham, which is kind of more southwest. I work with some great schools in kind of like Ealing and Uxbridge area. One of my schools, Swakeleys, loves the Overseas Pipeline. It's a really fab school, and obviously as you start to come over, you'll get to chat to consultants a little bit more about that. As I've already mentioned, loads to do. Obviously get to see the Queen, which is nice if you want to. And in terms of just more about like rent, I would obviously advise when you're before kind of coming over, starting that short-term contract, just obviously because you want to have somewhere to live and you might not be 100% sure on area. But in terms of kind of an amount, obviously London is probably a little bit more expensive. So you're looking at about £500 to £700 per month for a room in London, about £1,600 per month for like a small studio or a 1-bedroom flat. Again, it will differ slightly depending on the area. Obviously, hopefully you guys are aware of our links in terms of travel. We've got the tube system here, our overground trains. It's fantastic. So even if you do live somewhere that isn't central London, you will be able to get to different parts in a matter of minutes, which is great. Again, kind of day-to-day costs. So public transport is something to look into. For example, £158 for a monthly pass. Again, restaurants, this will differ, but maybe a meal for 2 people, kind of at a mid-range restaurant, about £60. Again, this will differ where you go. We've got in London Bridge, where the ANZUK office is based, you've got Borough Market, which has some lovely food there, that we go to quite often. So you will have different places as well, but obviously loads to do, and loads of things to see. Surrey as well. So as we move to Surrey, obviously a little bit more scenic, but it's really lovely there. You'll hopefully get to talk to some of my colleagues, Jason and Kate, as well, about living in Surrey. And again, the good thing about Surrey is a lot of areas are then accessible to London. You know, there's good links there too. In terms of the cost, obviously it will be slightly lower just because you're that bit further out. So you're looking at about £400 to £600 per month for a room, and about £1,200 per month for a small studio or flat as well. But again, Surrey and London are quite different, but there's definitely benefits for both. And if you kind of want that more lifestyle where you can go on country walks and it's really lovely and scenic, and there's still a lot to do in Surrey as well, which is lovely. Yeah, that's just a little overview.
Yeah, and the general, like as a like an Aussie or a Kiwi going over, like the cost of living generally is less in the UK. Rent gets a stigma in London specifically that it's super expensive and it's a city that you're going to struggle to live in. It's not really the case. You know, you can live comfortably off a teaching wage. Obviously, teachers don't get the huge salaries as well as other professions do get, but obviously not everyone gets an education for the money. Obviously, it's the impact in the classroom, and yeah, it is slightly less than the Australian and New Zealand wages too. But again, it's really competitive in terms of when you're over there and you're living. So you can get your travel bug itched, if you'd call it that, and then really live comfortably as well too. And we'll talk a little bit towards the end of the slide. I know we're probably a few minutes behind in the presentation just because we had a couple of minutes where I patched out, but we'll keep moving through. But Zakia, give us the options outside of the Big Smoke and Surrey.
Sure. So if you take a 1.5 hour train journey westward across the UK, then you get to Bristol. It's diverse, it's creative, it's laid back, it's quite rich in culture, and the food scene is therefore top class as well. There are great transport links. You don't have to drive if you're living in Bristol. You can cycle because we're investing quite a lot in cycle schemes and cycle routes across the city. And buses are plentiful and they run very, very regularly. You can use the train as well. Rent is about is a lot cheaper, definitely, than London. It's about 500 per month for a room in Bristol, and then 1,000-ish per month for a 1-bed flat with everything else. Your monthly pass for public transport is around £71, 72 quid. And a meal for 2 people for a mid-range restaurant is about 50. However, again, it depends on where you go. I could recommend loads of places for a lot cheaper that can fill you up and you'd be over the moon. And then if you travel a little bit further westward, then you get to Newport and Wales. I think it's another 20 minutes on the train, give or take. It's close to Cardiff, which is the capital city, and it's becoming a lot more modernized, quite a cosmopolitan city itself. The nightlife in Cardiff is unreal.
Lots of fun. Yes, I've had a night out in Cardiff before, and it's really good fun.
Yeah. Now, what I hear for sure from everyone who lives in Wales is that it's quite cheap to live and rent. £250 per month for a room in Cardiff or Newport, and £800 per month. I was this close to buying a house in Wales and then commuting to Bristol because it's so close. To get to Newport, it's about 40 minutes, give or take, by car. So yeah, if you do consider living in Wales, you get the rolling countryside and the cheap living as well.
Yeah, and it's actually really, funny enough, nice beaches in Wales. You would never think it. The weather doesn't allow you to go to them as often as what you might if you lived in Byron Bay, even though the weather's been quite bad in Byron Bay recently. But yeah, it's lots of good options too. So even if you want to start in London, which a lot of people choose to do, really consider living somewhere else after that as well. Anyone who's lived in any of these cities loves it. Like there really are amazing places to live and to teach. So we've given everyone the overview. Just as another poll, where in the UK would you like to live? Having your previous knowledge, and then maybe Takia's convinced everyone to book a flight to Bristol potentially, or Oliver's got family in
Yes.
Hackney, which is great. I personally lived in Hackney the whole time over there, and we got one going to Bristol, which is good. So,
Got one.
yeah, one to Wales as well. Jack, love that. Bristol or Surrey, which is good. Yeah, so Wales now. Yes, love that, Steph. That's great. Cool. So again, we'll just continue to move through. Thanks everyone for contributing to that. And the idea, guys, that everyone can get to know everyone too. So if you're realizing a few people in this chat are from, you know, a similar part of Oz and going, or New Zealand, going to a similar place, you want to potentially find someone to live with, friends, network out, we'll send a link to the Facebook group in a minute. But yeah, come along to our events in person and yeah, really meet other people as well that are on this call too. So Sophie, give us a bit of an overview of what people can do in the UK when they're in the classroom.
Yeah, so pretty much anything. We have roles. Yeah, we have so many different roles, ranging from groundskeeper to admin, library assistant. I've had library manager. So there's a range of roles out there. Obviously, specifically, kind of what we're going to talk about today would be obviously like teacher. I know a lot of you said that you're teachers as well, which is really exciting. So we kind of break it down into our different kind of age groups, and you might have heard some of this terminology before, but if you haven't, that's absolutely fine. So we have like our early years teacher, where we're looking at nursery children and reception children. So they're our younger children, you know, kind of ranging up to about age of 5. And then we go into our key stage 1. And in terms of key stage 1, we're looking at, for example, year 1 and year 2. And then we go into key stage 2, which is year 3 to year 6. In terms of the age range, that spans to around the age of 11. And that's the end of what we call like our primary school journey in year 6. There are also some specialist and kind of leadership positions as well, depending on the school. So it's always great to hear about kind of what you're interested in as well. And then we move on to our key stage 3 to key stage 5, which is then our secondary years as well. As you can see, you've got key stage 3, which is our kind of year 7 to year 9, key stage 4, which is our years 9 to 11, and then key stage 5, which is our years 12 to 13, and then again after that, hopefully university as well. We do have loads of roles for support staff, particularly in terms of where I work. I have loads of roles for support staff as well, which is really exciting. So if you are, you know, a teaching assistant, or you want to kind of get into some support work, again, this can range. The list is endless. So we have a lot for primary ages, so from that early years, nursery, all the way through into secondary schools as well. We do have a lot of schools with special educational needs. So if you have a specialism in that, or you're keen to get involved, that'd be great. A lot of that runs within one-to-ones, smaller groups. And again, I know this already been mentioned, but we do also work with quite a few PRUs, so pupil referral units as well. And other than that, you've got some kind of other terminology here like cover supervisor. So if you're really keen to work in a secondary school, this role is basically where you supervise the lesson, the behaviour, the work's already there for you, but you just want to make it as fun as possible. And then obviously, as I mentioned, kind of admin roles and science tech roles and groundskeeper. So we hopefully can support with, you know, any role that you're looking to kind of get involved with as well. And again, just to touch on the types of schools, we work with all of them. We have academies, our SEND schools, our PRU schools. I work with quite a few private and independent schools as well, which is great. And then a lot of nurseries too, all in the different regions, again, across kind of London as well.
Yeah, it's all about finding your ideal role. And if you want to try a pupil referral unit, which is behaviour, which caters to students who challenge behaviour, and you want to give that a go and you love it, great. If you don't like it, that's fine. We can try and support with work elsewhere. There's a broad spectrum of schools available for work in the UK, just as there is here in Australia or New Zealand too. And where it's all about finding an environment that's great for you. And you know, a lot of the schools we work with are really familiar with the Aussie and Kiwi cohort going over, so they know what to do to support. Like I know Sophie mentioned a school called Swakeley's school earlier. They've been working with ANZUK UK for 10 plus years, and they really understand the type of educator we usually support with in their schools. So, but yeah, if it's private schools, just let us know. That's what we'll work towards as well. So looking at the type of work available for everyone, and I'm just going to share a blog too, which dives into the securing a contract in a role from overseas. But essentially, there's a few different options available to everyone. So there's doing daily supply work, and we have a ready to work app which allows everyone to log on. If you want to go to Paris next weekend, just tick yourself unavailable on the Friday. If you want a week off in Santorini, you can block the week out, whatever whatever you want to do. And really easy to use, good flexibility, develop relationships in different schools. It's a really good way to get to know a city. And the daily rates here are just starting across the different areas depending on where you live. The UK is a little complicated. We won't dive into it too much, but the pay scales differ where you are in the UK, just how it's set up. So it's not like in, Victoria where it's everywhere in Vic's the same. It's weighted towards central London. So you earn more in central London because it's a cost of living, and it gets less, the rate lowers more so the further out you get from London, but then the cost of living drops too. One thing which is we really promote for everyone to really strongly consider is looking at a long-term supply contract or potentially a permanent role. So that would mean that you're working in the school in an ongoing capacity as a full-time classroom teacher or maybe part-time, and then you get all the benefits of being a part of a school community, developing relationships, behaviour management, career progression, pay increases as well. So you obviously will earn more if you're in a longer term opportunity, and that would still be employed through ANZ UK in a long-term supply contract, which would be the most common one for everyone on the call. Hopefully that leads to a permanent contract if you're wanting that and the school can cater to that. That means you're working directly with the school, not with ANZ UK, and you're employed through the school itself. So, all of these options are on offer, but because of the benefits of the long-term supply, we really promote that as an option for everyone to consider. But if you've got 7 years of experience, you don't want to work in a long-term role and you want to do casual work, that's 100% fine too. We can definitely assist you with that as well. But for grads, really consider this as a pathway to career development. Too, and you get work across the whole year as well. Supply can get a little quiet at the back end and the start of the term, as we know. Cool. This one, I was going to cover this one actually. So we have some relocation bonuses on offer as well. And I'm just going to share a blog too, which breaks these down a little bit more detail, some Q&A. So some people on the call may have already worked with ANZ UK locally, but we can guarantee you work in Australia, New Zealand, and then also in the UK. And that's called an ambassador agreement. So it means up to 5 days a week, you can get guaranteed work doing casual work, and you'll be eligible for up to £250 off your flights once you work 60 days in that contract. A long-term bonus would mean that you've accepted a long-term role before you get to the UK, and you'll be eligible for up to £500 off your flights once you work 60 days. It pretty much pays for your one-way ticket over this one, unless you've booked a more expensive flight or whatever, or you've got a little bit fancy and booked business class or something, but this could cover your one-way ticket over. We do have a referral bonus as well. We would hope that everyone has a good experience of ANZ UK and would refer people on anyway. However, once someone's worked 10 days in the UK, you're eligible to get £100 paid back to yourself. So anyone you network, send them our direction and we're happy to help. And there's similar bonuses for local work too. We won't dive on this into too much detail because it's a little bit, it is quite complicated. The Brits have done an amazing job of complicating their pay system comparatively to how we've set it up here in Australia and New Zealand. You can get paid directly through ANZ UK, which is what the vast majority of people choose to do and what we promote. But there are umbrella companies that operate in the UK too, which have nothing to do with umbrellas. There's no relation there. They're just called umbrella companies. But just when you may hear daily rates get quoted, through potentially like another agency or anything like that, just always understand if that's a PAYE rate or an umbrella rate. That's the question which we just want to promote everyone just to be aware of. But yeah, the biggest thing to take away from this would be the relocation bonuses, and they're tax-free too, which is handy. So if you arrive for January 2023, that would get paid out around about Easter most likely, and then you can book a trip to Santorini, or I've said Santorini a couple of times, Berlin or Norway or anywhere, Spain, wherever. So cool. And then finding somewhere to live. Here, I think this is you, I believe. Yeah, if you wanted to just give a bit of an overview on this one, and I'll post a blog into the chat as well, which gives this a lot more breadth or depth, really. So everyone feel free to bookmark these blogs. But Takia, give us a bit of a snapshot of what people can do.
Sure. So when it comes to finding somewhere to live, I would recommend, I think I've only done this where you just use like a well-known property search website like Zoopla or Rightmove or Spare Room, just there in the corner, to search for a few houses or flats or apartments roughly in the city that you're living in. Now, I think the best use of us would be to ask us where is best to live, or where to target, what locations to target to live in. I think for one of my educators coming over, I printed out a map and then just highlighted streets and areas to look at when looking at where to rent. So yeah, just ask us. We can give you as much guidance as possible when it comes to this.
Yeah. And these,
think,
sorry to jump in there too, Takir, as well. These Facebook groups are really good ones as well, Aussies and Kiwis in London. So we've also our Facebook group, which I'll share in a second, other people on the call potentially as well, like getting flatmates. Most people flat share over in the UK too, unless you wanted to live by yourself, but the majority of people would flat share as well. But yeah, these websites are really, really good places to start too. So sorry to jump in there, Takir.
That's right. And I think when it comes to getting around, just public transport, it's quite easy for both London and for Bristol. Really, really easy to get around, just using trains or buses. You can cycle as well. Great way to stay fit. And you can look into driving as well. I'm not entirely sure how it would work with your driving license over in Oz or New Zealand, and then converting it or whatever to then buy a car as well, and then insurance and so on and so on. Quite a lot of them added on costs, but if you want to look into that, we can also assist you with that as well.
Yeah, spot on. It depends. You don't need a car in London, definitely. But if you wanted to travel around, you could potentially get one and just like park it outside of London. But it's a little bit complicated when you're in London, to be fair. But also just for everyone to remember, places are mostly furnished too. So sending over stuff, just take what you can fit on the plane. Really, you may want to send some stuff over. Feel free to do that. Put all your teaching resources as well in the cloud too, or on a hard drive that's in a safe place. So that way you've got all your resource bank ready to go when you get to the UK. And yeah, you can send and share that over as well, prior to getting there. But these area guides too are really, really good. And that's the blog which I just shared. It's on our blog page, and it gives you a really in-depth overview of where to live, how to source accommodation. Sophie touched on it before, short-term first, long-term second, essentially. So get to a place, try before you buy, make sure you meet the people you might be living with, look at the place where you're going to potentially be staying, and just be really confident with what you're signing yourself up for. But maybe it's an Airbnb for the first 2 weeks, and then signing onto a 6-month lease after that as well. But then when you get there, obviously there's so much more to teaching and finding a house. There's also bank accounts and setting up for life that we will talk about. But we don't have a heap of time left for these past couple slides, so we might have to squeeze through a few. But Sophie, did you want to give a little snapshot on setting up for life in the UK?
Yeah, of course, I'll rush through this, but in terms of kind of getting paid, you might think, how do I get paid? You'll have to wait till you come over, but then it's pretty easy. There's loads of different options. The main ones that I normally recommend is like Monzo. You've probably heard of that already, but Monzo's great. Obviously you've got HSBC and other banks as well. One important thing to kind of like note as well, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, but in terms of coming over with the fees and the fees that are included in that then is for use with the NHS here. Is that right, Tyler?
Correct, yeah. So we'll have the visa slide in a minute, and it costs about £1,100 for the Youth Mobility Scheme visa, and that gives you full access to the NHS when you're over in the UK, and you pay that like also through national insurance when you get there. Again, a little complicated how it's set up. It's not just tax in the UK. There's tax, employers, NI, employees, NI. So don't worry too much about it yet, but you'll see on your first payslip lots of things that you're like, this doesn't make any sense, but we explain that to you as well. So, but yeah, the NHS gives you healthcare.
And the NHS is fab here as well. It's just brilliant. Again, mobile phones, obviously there's a lot of options when you get here in terms of like signing up for a mobile phone. For like the SIMs, they're pretty cheap. They're not too bad. £10, £25 or £30 a month. You've got gift gaff, free mobile. They're pretty good options. Again, there's loads for you to kind of look into. They're just some to kind of mention. And then last bit, international funds. So obviously any funds that you have obviously coming over, you want to be kind of accessing over here. So there's some options that we popped on here. If there's any others, Tyler, do add them. But like ING, International, Citibank as well. But it's good just to know that you can obviously, you want to be accessing your kind of funds once you touch down in the UK as well.
Yeah, spot on. And the blog which we just shared is a guide to setting up your funds. So feel free to have a look through that blog, and that will give you lots and lots of insights into what you need to do. So we talk you through all the steps as well. But the funds is really important, because if you go there and you're just using your NAB or your Westpac or whatever it is, you'll get stung a lot of international fees. So ask questions and we help out. And just take your phone, and you can get a new SIM card in there as well, just to highlight a point from Sophie's one there. So you'll just get a 10, 15 quid SIM card, and it just works prepaid. And they usually work across Europe as well. GiftGaff does do that as well, Free Mobile, heaps of others. So you can jump on a plane and fly and land and wherever you are in Europe for the most part, it will just work. So it's called like Feel at Home usually, or something similar to that, which is really well set up. Cool. And then this one here. So this is just like talking about the events in the community that's on offer for everyone. So before you go to the UK, we'll host events in Australia and New Zealand. It's in the major cities. So if you can't make it, we do apologise. What you can do is keep an eye out for the welcome events when you get to the UK. And then also, I'm going to quickly just highlight this page. Which is called our ANZUK UK Britbound Educator Group, which I just posted the link for in the chat. Feel free for everyone to join this group, and you can network out, you can meet other people who are journeying over. There's little channel groups that are classes of when people are arriving in their cohorts, and these groups, in theory, this January group, everyone will be arriving in January. So feel free to jump in there, see who's coming over to the UK. We'll post events in here as well. It's just a social networking group, to be honest. So feel free to use as much as you like. Lots of people in the past have met people that they're friends with, that they travel with. Some people met their partners in that Facebook group, believe it or not. So definitely lots of good things can come from it. So just if you want to put yourself out there, go for it. Everyone's in a pretty similar boat, or at least might be thinking pretty similar things. So looking through, so talking about like meeting people as well. So obviously ANZ UK is a great way to meet people in the school and at events, but it's not the only way. So we've got really good affiliations with sporting clubs, mostly across London, whether it be netball, whether it be rugby, or whether it be AFL, which is huge over there. So the Wandsworth Demons, which is in Clapham, if you go to the Clapham Common on a nice Thursday afternoon, there'll be 120 people training sometimes, and they need to have at least a certain percentage of non-Aussie players on the field at any given point. So you'll have Irish people playing the English. So it's not just literally a team full of Aussies. You get to meet people from all walks of life, which is really fun. And if you're booking trips, make sure you reach out to our team. We've got most of these are up to date. We've got some discounts that you can get with certain travel providers. We would have heard of most of these, obviously Top Deck, Bus About, Kentucky. Travel Talk do really good tours to Morocco and really cool tours to Egypt. So if you're thinking you wanted to go to North Africa, Travel Talk is really, really, really good company to do that. They do amazing tours. So, but yeah, if you want to meet people, if you're traveling solo, even if you don't play sport, these are really good ways to meet people. They're good fun. And yeah, you can see obviously a few photos of the ANZ UK, our own team, but there's lots of good fun to be had when you're out there playing some sport. So Sophie, did you want to run through the academic year, and then I might just power through the last like 5 or 6 slides after that, because I don't want to make sure we don't keep everyone too long. So just give us a snapshot of the academic year. That'd be amazing.
I know I already touched on this a little bit when you were off, but I'll quickly run through as well. So
Nice.
Realistically, our terms are kind of split into 3 main terms. So your autumn term, your spring term, and your summer term. Again, the dates will differ each year, but it's roughly around kind of the same time. So this year, obviously, 1st of September to the 21st of October. We do have half terms after every term as well, which is really nice. Normally a week, sometimes 2 weeks as well. So again, that's a great time if you do want to travel, relax a little bit as well. Just something to note, so if you are coming over and looking for a long-term role within a school, we do kind of advise that you come over for kind of September, January, just because these are obviously the starts of September, the start of the new academic year, and then January is obviously after that first term. It doesn't matter too much, but it is just something to be aware of, that if you are really kind of set on having a long-term role, it's good to get in with those dates. Again, if you're coming over and you're just doing some daily supply with us, you can be a bit more flexible with that. But obviously, yeah, most of our roles for our schools particularly are in that September start or that January start, as again, that's just when obviously the first term starts, and then the next kind of spring term as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We do have bank holidays throughout. Again, we had quite a few this year due to the Queen's Jubilee, which was really nice. And they kind of are scattered throughout, and you'll see them, obviously they'll change each year on the calendar too. But yeah, that's kind of a quick overview of our kind of 3 terms and how it's split.
Yeah, and you'll find there's lots of little nuances and little differences with like something like a bank holiday. It's obviously in Oz we call them public holidays. You know, in the UK it's not called a register. It's not called a roll. It's called break. It's not called recess. The principal's the head teacher. There's lots of acronyms that you'll familiarise yourself with. Lots of terminologies that you've never heard of. The UK love acronyms, so you'll get to GCSE,
Yeah, we do.
QTS, you know, ECT. So there's lots of acronyms, and again, it's just familiarising yourself with it and just learning those differences. The kids will laugh when you'll stuff up and you'll say football instead of saying soccer. Or sorry, you say soccer instead of saying football. But yeah, just picking it up. But knowing things like the key stages, it is important because like that's how the education system is structured. But those little nuances you'll pick up as you go. So these next 5 slide guys, I know we just ticked over an hour. I know we started a few minutes late, and I know I had to patch out for a couple. But the computer stopped working for a couple of minutes, I should say. We'll quickly roll through these next couple slides. It's more on the how you get there and like what the requirements are. So we'll quickly touch on it. So the most common visa for everyone will be the youth mobility visa. We actually need to change that. It's not the tier 5 visa anymore. It's the youth mobility scheme visa. Essentially, in a nutshell, we have a visa support team who can assist with the visa application process. Costs $99 and you get $50 back if you sign on to one of those contracts we mentioned earlier. In short, costs about £1,200 for the visa. You can apply once under the age of 31. It's a cliche. It's a once in a lifetime visa. Once you've used it, you can't use it again. You can apply within 6 months before you get to the UK, and we're recommending educators allow up to 10 to 12 weeks for it to process from the date you apply, just because there's a big backlog of visa applications currently at the moment heading into the UK. So available to Aussies and to Kiwis, so everyone on the call. And that was a really brief snapshot. There is a free trade agreement coming in, and we actually need to update this slide again because more recently New Zealand as well. So this visa is changing to a 3-year under 35 visa in the next 18 months. There's no date when, but it will change. So if you're looking, I know there was a 2025 earlier that you might be applying. I can't remember who said 2025, apologies, but you might apply for the new visa. But most people for January, you'll get 2 years on your visa, which is a great time. And if you're loving it, you want to stay, you can get a skilled worker visa to continue your stay. Or if you're not eligible for any of these visas, we can discuss sponsorship before you get to the UK. I know Sophie's in the process of potentially helping to try and help an educator to get sponsored, I believe, or at least was hoping that happened. So that's an option if you're not eligible for any of these visas. A little trickier because you can't just move there. You need to get a job offer, and we need to assist you with that as well. So you can't just book a flight and go. There needs to be a job offer from a UK school. If anyone has any British grandparents that you may know of or may not know of, you're eligible for an ancestry visa. You just need one grandparent to be born there, and then you get a 5-year visa. We can help you apply for this visa as well. The other options, if you've got a passport, FAB, or partner or spousal visa as well. But we give you lots of resources on this and talk you through the process as best we can. So for compliance, so we'll need to get an up-to-date CV from yourself, from everyone, an up-to-date photo too. And then those are really important. That's what we share with our schools to promote work opportunities for yourselves, to make sure that we're getting you work in the schools you want to work at. We need at least 2 references at a minimum from your previous 2 years of employment history. Grads, it's your mentor teachers, experienced teachers, it's APs, it's principals. If you're a teaching assistant, it's general employment. So we need to have 2 years of employment, but if it's in education, we'll need a reference from there. If anyone has lived overseas before, if you've lived overseas for more than 1 year in the past 10 years, you need to get an overseas police check from that country. If you haven't done that, that's fine. It's an Australian or a New Zealand police check plus the UK police check. These are the costs here as well. Again, we can assist you with the processing of all of these police checks too. Really important for everyone going to the UK. Remember to put your DBS on the update service. Costs £13. You would have never heard of the update service before. That's fine. I hadn't heard of it and I forgot to do it, which meant I had to pay an extra 44 quid after 12 months. It means you can only work with ANZ UK for this DBS because it links to the business that applies for it for you. So make sure when you get the compliance email from our team 2 months before you get to the UK, you remember DBS and update service. And don't forget, because I forgot, and I'm still rising, I had to pay an extra 44 quid. It's cool. Apologies to Kira as well. I know you had a couple of these slides, but we'll keep moving through, just conscious of time. The qualification, so we can cite your quals via an e-qual, so online. So we just need to make sure that obviously you're a teacher. If that's what your qualification says, we just check that online. We have no one on this call may or may not have heard of safeguarding. It's essentially the equivalent of mandatory reporting. That says mandatory training because means everyone has to do it, not mandatory reporting, but it's the same thing. So safeguarding is a huge thing in the UK, and every school has a big emphasis on it. So we support you through this training, but it's just what to do if something's gone wrong with a student who may be at risk in that sense, and what steps to take. Hopefully you never even have to deal with that at all, but you just need to know what to do if you needed to deal with it, essentially. These points here, so again, acronyms. The UK love acronyms. Everyone on the call who's a teacher can work in the UK for up to 4 years as an overseas trained teacher. If you've got your full registration, such as your VIT in Victoria or NESA in New South Wales, you can apply for what's called your QTS, your Qualified Teacher Status, which gives you a mutual recognition of your degree. But if you're a grad, you can teach up to 4 years. And then you can, when there, if you wanted to stay longer, you could apply for a QTS if you wanted to. Wales is a little bit more complicated. I'll give you a brief snapshot. Again, ask questions if you forget any of this, because you're not expected to remember it all. And it is recorded. If you're a grad going to Wales, you can't teach as a teacher. You need to teach as an instructor. It's just a little different. But if you've got your full registration, you can apply for your EWC, which is the same as a QTS. Apologies for the acronym so late in the night. And you're fully registered over there. The virtual registration, again, 2 months before you get there, online meet the team, but we want every single person on the call to come into our office, meet the team in the flesh when you get there. But you don't need to do that. We just really promote for you to do that because we want to make sure we've met you in the person, because that's how we get to develop a better relationship with you, and you get to meet the team and meet other people. And our offices are good fun. Everyone's always up for a drink or a fish and chip meal or lunch, whatever it is. Travel requirements. This slide has changed so much over the past 12 months. I know everyone on the call has probably had trips booked overseas, had to change them, cancel them, whatever it is. So this will probably, hopefully, we'll be able to maybe remove this slide in the coming months. But for now, we will keep it here. Make sure that you're just keeping an eye out on what the testing requirements are. It may change, but at the moment, you pretty much can just jump on a plane and go. But just keep an eye out if it changes. We recommend to be fully vaccinated. There isn't a mandate in the UK, but we still recommend to be fully vaccinated. Keep an eye out if you need to quarantine potentially in a country, if it's a red list. But again, this hasn't really happened in a long time. No countries on the red list. But again, just be aware that it may happen, even though it's highly likely that it won't. Flights and travel insurance. Make sure you book a flexi ticket if possible, just in case you need to move it. And make sure you book travel insurance more than ever. Really important. You're covered by the NHS in the UK, but when you travel overseas, you need to get travel insurance. So, and we recommend to get travel insurance when you go into the UK as well. But yeah, you can book travel insurance really easily when you're in the UK. Some educator stories. So these are just like two little testimonials for people who have lived the dream themselves. Hayley talking about the events being a huge part of what she loved about living overseas. And Emma just talks about being a grad, being a bit nervous, getting a job, and then coming home to a job once she returned to Melbourne. So, and just some more photos of people having some good fun around London. We won't go through this slide, just why part of it ANZ UK. There's lots of things that we spoke about. There's lots of things that we didn't as well. We've got lots of resources we'll share. We've got an online PD platform that we'll give you access to as well. Oodles of resources, support's all available, and the community too. So I know we've sort of rushed those last couple of slides. Apologies. I know that due to technical difficulties that we had to, probably go a little bit quicker than what we would have liked. Apologies. But question time. So please, if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump off mute, put the video on, post in the chat, anything at all. And also a side note to that, a big thank you for anyone who's about to jump off the call. Really, really appreciate everyone coming online this afternoon. We'll send a follow-up with the slides, with the recording. Hopefully it worked. I'm pretty sure it has. And we will promote for you to jump into the Facebook group and book a call with our team. So we want to speak with you. We want to make sure we have a conversation with you and learn about your plans and how we can help you and what's in store for yourself. So any questions at all? If you don't want to, you can post in the chat as well. Feel free to do that too if you wanted to. I actually know there was a couple questions before the webinar that I had open that I want to quickly try and get up, but my computer crashed, so we had to. I didn't get a chance to talk about them during the webinar itself, but I know that we had. Cool. We got a question there. Emily, Sophie, do you want to have a go? Or not have a go? Do you want to answer that one? Or bless you as well.
Bad timing. Yeah, no problem.
So is it relatively easy to get a job in a high school in London?
Yeah, is my answer. Yeah, obviously, like I said, I am Northwest London. There's so many opportunities across the whole of London as well. Obviously, when you start to kind of think about coming over, you'll have an area in mind. Again, as Kim mentioned, you can chat to us and we're best to kind of tell you specific areas, or if you know someone, again, the groups are great for kind of talking about areas, but yeah, it is easy. Again, it just depends on kind of what you are looking for as well. We set up interviews. So I know I've mentioned Swakes quite a lot, which is one of the big kind of secondary schools that I work with in London and Northwest London in Uxbridge. Again, they just love the overseas pipeline, so they'll do an interview, chat to you, and obviously if you're here, that's great because you can go in, but if not, most of our schools are just happy doing like an online interview, and some have 2 stages. You get to meet the head of year, but yeah, it is relatively easy. It just depends on obviously kind of what's right for you and what's right for the school.
Yeah, and I know Bethany. Oh, Emily, so you just chucked yourself off mute there. Apologies.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you for that because yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah,
no problem. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, perfect. And that was one of the questions too. Do you get to meet the principals or executives over Zoom before you start working there? And if it's at a school, the answer is yes. So, and it's a 2-way interview as well. Like we want to make sure that the school wants to make sure that you're the right fit for the school, but we want you to make sure it's the right fit for you. So asking questions around the staff environment, resources, support, what's available for yourself within that cohort, also within that staff room. So yeah, really want to make sure that you're confident that it's going to be a role that you're going to enjoy. 99 times out of 100, everyone who touches down really enjoys it. If for whatever reason it wasn't the right fit and it just didn't work, we want to figure out how we can make that situation, remediable. However, you can always look at other options as well. So you're not necessarily locked into something, but it gives you the option to know that it's a role that is there for you, and hopefully it's the right role too. So I know we got a couple other questions as well, which is great. Connie, I'll answer your one. So how far in advance can we get in contact? Looking at August 2025. So we start contact with our UK team 12 months before your intent to arrive in the UK. So you could start talking to the UK team in about 2 years' time. But then between now and then, Connie, what are you getting up to work locally? If you're graduating in 2024 or 2025, you could do teaching assistant work before you graduate with ANZUK if hopefully you live in an area where we can assist. But yeah, we can have a call together in the next couple of weeks or months, and then start planning as early as you like. Get excited. You might even turn out that August 2025 turns into August 2024 because you just want to make it happen. So but great question. But yeah, 12 months before you're due to get there is that one. Living Tiana, so living in London and doing daily supply, should we expect to have to travel all over the city? Are there pockets with more work, etc.? So we've got 4 different regional teams in London: a northeast, a northwest, a southeast, and a southwest team. So for yourself, if you're situated the more central you live, obviously the less travel you might have to experience just because it's easier to get connections. But the way we're set up, we've got relationships with schools across the entire city, and each area has hub locations where you might be able really well connected. Like if you live near Clapham Junction as an example, that's a really well connected part of London, so you'll be able to travel out to lots of different schools a lot more readily, a lot more easily. If you're living in parts of East London, sometimes it's a little trickier to get around, even though I love East London and it's such a cool place to live. If you're not close to an overground station, you might want to get on a bike, and you won't have as good access to schools down in the south. So it really varies, but to speak truthfully, there's relationships with schools we have across the whole city. So if you want to live in Greenwich, in southeast of London, great. If you wanted to live in Ealing, where Sophie supports schools, amazing. There's lots of work across the city. If you do decide to pick an area, just let our team know, and we could probably recommend if it's not a best area, somewhere I'm just throwing that area like a Dartford or a Dagenham, which is just far out in London. We probably say try and get a little bit more closer in, so you're not getting some really long journeys. But usually less than 60 minutes is what we try and do as much as possible. But yeah, around about that 45 to 60 minutes is a normal commute. But if it could be 30, it could be 10 minutes, who knows. What areas of London would you recommend looking into the best of living and renting and working? I know we've sort of touched on a heap of different areas, but in the blog page, Alicia, on our area guides, it essentially gives you each area broken down in detail and some of the hotspots within there. So like there's big mainstays for Aussies in all of London. So Northwest is Fulham, Hammersmith, Shepherd's Bush. You know, then you've got Southwest, you've got Clapham, Wandsworth, Putney, Wimbledon. The southeast, you've got Greenwich, Bermondsey, Peckham. The northeast, Hackney, Bethnal Green, Islington, Camden. So like all those places you live in and you'd love. And yeah, you could really have an amazing experience in each one of those places and live there for 2 years. And like Sophie said, still not see half of it. So, but yeah, great question. Aiming for Angel. Angel's great. There's a really good free comedy night in Angel called at the Camden Head. They do comedy each night on, and it's like an open mic. So the Camden Head, if you remember that one, Tiana, when you head to Islington, we used to go there a lot. Paris, thanks for this question, guys, as well. Absolutely love it. In Paris, if I'm not graduating until December, can I still apply for visas prior to moving for Jan, look for jobs? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so you can apply for your visa today, Paris, if you wanted to, and then you could get your as long as you're like really confident you're going to pass your graduation, then that's obviously, you know, if you know that's going to happen, and you can plan your trip as if you're going to be ready to go for January. And then when you're applying for jobs, the schools just know that you're not fully qualified yet, but your graduation will come in December, and then you could have a job offer accepted in November for a January start and have your visa approved, and then just pending your qualification coming back. So yeah, definitely an option, Paris. And like we touched on before, January, it's the summer holidays at the moment, but yeah, come September 1st when the schools come back, Sophie and Takia, the first question they'll be asking is, how are you going for September? Do you need any staffing today? But what's happening for January? You know, how are you looking? You know, we've got all these great teachers who we just had a webinar with that want to get over there and jump into the classroom and, you know, hit the ground running with the job. So cool. So good, guys. We've still got a heap of people on the call. So I know I'm happy to give it like an extra couple minutes or not, whilst anyone throws in any questions. It's summer holidays, so Takia and Sophie don't have any immediate things I hope to jump out to. So
no, it's all good. It's lovely.
Yeah. All right, so I'm happy to stick around as well for a little bit. So is there a time limit on when we need to start working once arriving in the UK? Great question, Ash. So not necessarily, no. It all depends on your finances, really. You know, if you can, you know, afford to not work for a long period of time, or go for it. If you've got the big thing for when you first get there is just maybe picking up your visa. So if you've applied for a youth mobility scheme visa, when you get there, you need to pick up your BRP card, which is your biometrics residency permit card, within 3 months of when you first get there. But you don't have to be working during that time, but you just need to get it within 3 months. And then after you've picked it up, you could wait as long as you like. The youth mobility scheme visa is not linked to education nor ANZ UK. So if you wanted to, don't do this, but like if you wanted to, you know, do different, work in a bar or something for a little bit, you could do that if you wanted to. Stay in the classroom, it's where the good fun happens. But you can start working whenever you like. But good question, Ash. Amazing, guys. Well, we're losing a few, which is fine, because I know obviously it is a little bit late in the afternoon. I know New Zealand, definitely it's getting very, very close to bedtime. But I'll just sort of finish off with a thank you, and then anyone can chuck any last minute questions. But thank you for everyone joining in. It's been an absolute pleasure. These are just, thank you. Perfect. Thanks, guys. We hope you found this webinar I guess useful. Any feedback, do let us know. We're always happy to see if there's anything we need to tweak, change, or alter. Apologies, we have to skim through, and apologies for the technical difficulties. It's 2022. I don't think they will ever go away, those technical problems. You know, people will always be stuck on mute. So awesome. Yeah, well, hopefully I get to chat to you personally. Hopefully we get to see you at an event. Hopefully you get to speak with Takia or Sophie. If it's not them, there's lots of other team members in the UK offices that are more than happy to get around you and support your journey. So have a lovely evening, everyone. Takia, Sophie, have an amazing morning. Enjoy the summer. Takia, again, I will not follow you on Instagram for the next couple of weeks while you're in Santorini. Enjoy your honeymoon. And yeah, have an amazing day, everyone, or night. And then, yeah, we look forward to catching up with you all soon. Enjoy.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, everyone.
Perfect. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.